What's up, guys? I'm Mike Rivers with the Rivers Group at Compass Real Estate. I'm a Boston area native and a local real estate advisor. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the pros and cons of living in the West End neighborhood of Boston, also referred to as North Station.
West Side is the best.
And if you guys think you might need some help navigating the buying, renting, selling process anywhere inside or outside the city of Boston, please feel free to give me a shout at the number below or fill out that form in the description so I know you're not trying to sell me something. I would love to connect with you, see if I can help you out. If I can't help you out, I'll connect you with someone who can. But I grew up minutes from here. I have lived and worked in Boston for the last 20 years, and I absolutely love being a resource for people following our channel. It costs you nothing to connect with me, so please feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to see what I can do for you. And in the meantime, let's talk about the West End neighborhood, starting with some context about the location in the city of Boston and its development compared to the rest of the city. To understand why the West End is called the West End, you have to refer to some of the older maps of the original Shawmut Peninsula, because Boston's footprint is completely different now than it was when the city was founded, but the neighborhood names have pretty much stayed the same over the years. The West End is bordered by the Charles River to the north and northwestern edges, Beacon Hill to the south, the North End to the east, and the historic downtown area at the southeastern edge. Boston's West End neighborhood was perhaps the most affected by the Boston Urban Renewal project. This was a significant urban planning and redevelopment initiative that took place back in the mid-20th century, aiming to revitalize and modernize various neighborhoods in Boston. They did this through a series of demolition, construction, and redevelopment projects. So despite it being one of the oldest neighborhoods in the city, the initiative resulted in a completely modernized feel with quite a bit less charm and character than some of the surrounding historical areas. There are many different opinions about how much this benefited the city, as it ended up displacing a lot of residents who were no longer able to afford the high price tags in the redeveloped areas.
It's called gentrification.
And robbed the city of some of that character that makes Boston what it is. Regardless, the project has become a bit of a case study, and Boston seems to have learned at least some lessons about historic preservation and the inclusion of affordable housing in the constantly developing areas of the city. So now that we got that little mini history lesson out of the way, let's dive into the pros and cons of the West End neighborhood. As usual, starting off on a positive note with the pros. The first pro of the West End is the neighborhood's prime location within the city of Boston. And I'll dive a little bit more deeply into some of the specifics I mentioned here, but the proximity of the West End to some of Boston's attractions and other great neighborhoods is very hard to beat. You cannot get much closer to historic downtown. Mass General Hospital is right in the heart of the West End, and many doctors, nurses, and other hospital workers have made their home in this neighborhood. And if you're working or going to school in Cambridge, you are right across the Charles River. It's one subway stop away or a quick stroll over the Longfellow Bridge or Charles River Dam Road. The access to subway stations is nearly unbeatable in this neighborhood, with access to 5 in the immediate area. It is also super convenient for those working in the financial district right down the street. This is one of the highest ranked neighborhoods in Boston in terms of walkability, and for traveling longer distances, you are just minutes from Logan International Airport in the West End. The second pro of the West End is the nightlife, bars, and restaurants. There is a ton to do in this area of the city. It is home to the TD Garden, so if you are a Bruins or Celtics fan, you cannot live much closer to these home games.
You are in Beantown now, baby! Beantown! Beantown!
Not to mention, the Garden constantly has hugely popular musicians, comedians, and other live performances. Big Night Live is a smaller live music venue right next to the TD Garden and is another great spot to catch a slightly more intimate performance than those next door. There are a variety of restaurants, bars, and lounges in the area, including a couple at the very cool Liberty Hotel, which is actually a former prison. You can grab a bite at Scampo and drinks at Alibi, or the beautiful Lobby Bar, which looks more like a trendy European nightclub. Back over by the Garden, you have some more casual local staples and game time dive bars like Sullivan's Tap, West End Johnny's, and the Harp. Hub Hall is an upscale food court with tons of great options for any appetite. New restaurants and bars do rotate in and out of this neighborhood, but just know as far as the West End nightlife in general, you are going to have a great combination of sporting events, shows, some high-end trendy clubs and lounges, and local dive bars to watch the Celtics or Bruins games. Not to mention, with your location in the city here, your nightlife options in the surrounding neighborhoods is virtually unbeatable. Pro number 3 is the modern luxury living options here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you are right next to the historic downtown area, but unlike other neighborhoods of historic Boston where you may be living in a 200-year-old building, you are not sacrificing a comfortable lifestyle here with the luxury, full-service apartments and condos. One of the benefits of the Urban Renewal project was the construction of residential buildings that have actually implemented revolutionary technology compared to buildings in other historic neighborhoods in the city. One shining example of this is the immensely popular elevator. Of course, that was just the beginning because there are some more recent, ultra-modern luxury residential buildings. Just to name a few, the Beverly, Lovejoy Wharf, the Sudbury, Avalon North Station, Hub 50 House, Alcott are all incredible options for living in extreme comfort in the West End. Now, I'm not going to dive too deeply into the amenities or differences between these buildings in this specific video, but if you have some questions or want to know what might be the perfect match for your lifestyle, please feel free to shoot me a text at the number below or fill out that form in the description and let me know what it is you're looking for. But the amenities typically include things like fitness centers, rooftop terraces, pools, 24-hour concierge, and many of these buildings have fantastic views of Boston skyline and Boston Harbor. Pro number 4 is the access you have here to the city's open green spaces. Now, while the West End itself does not contain large-scale parks and open green space, it is virtually surrounded on all sides by some of the largest parks in Boston, including the Charles River Esplanade, where you can walk, bike, kayak, picnic, grab a beer. Then the Rose Kennedy Greenway is a massive park produced by the Big Dig, where the I-93 Expressway was buried under the city. It is now home to walking paths, sustainable gardens, open spaces, and imagine that, another place to drink beer in Boston. Then you have Boston Common and the Public Gardens, two iconic parks right next to each other in the heart of the city, just blocks from the West End. Again, these are some of the largest parks in the entire city, and you're directly in the middle of them in the West End. So if you like being outside, this is a great place to live where you can take full advantage of the green spaces here. Pro number 5 is the healthcare access here in the West End. You are right on top of Mass General Hospital here, as well as Mass Eye and Ear Hospital. So if you have some ongoing medical issues, or maybe you're just prone to injury, it doesn't get much better than living blocks away from one of the highest ranked hospitals in the United States, and just down the road from Longwood Medical Area, which is another hub of some of the nation's best medical care. Not only does this provide peace of mind for some people with medical issues, it is also definitely something to consider if you are looking for education or careers in Boston's world-class healthcare industry.
We believe that blood should not be passed from person to person.
Well, I'm a doctor, and we believe that without surgery, a patient in your condition can suffer from a major case of deadness.
Now, with that said, let's take a look at some of the potential drawbacks of living in the West End. The first drawback of the West End is the high cost of living here. Being in the center of the city, close to jobs and amenities, comes with a higher sticker price. The West End, for good reason, is one of the city's pricier neighborhoods, especially if you are in a shiny, new, full-service condo. So I ran the numbers for condo sales and rental rates here in the West End over the last 12 months, but because some of these recent sales and rentals have been brand new developments, I don't have access to those numbers. So these numbers that I'm about to give you are a little bit skewed to the lower end because those brand new condo prices are quite a bit higher, and I'll get into that in just a second. But in the meantime, let's take a look at some of the recent condo sales prices over the last 12 months for some of these resales and some of the rental rates as well. So as far as median sales prices go over the last 12 months, the studio median sales price is $405,000. One-bedroom condos are going for $512,000, two-bedroom condos going for $815,000, and three-bedroom condos going for $1.07 million. And those are the median rates over the last 12 months from resales of condos. Now, the rental rate numbers for studio apartments are going to be $2,300 a month, one-bedroom apartments $2,950, two-bedroom apartments $3,825, and three-bedroom apartments are going to be $9,500, but those are a little bit harder to come by than those one and two-bedroom apartments. Again, guys, those are just the resale numbers, and if you are looking to get into one of these full-service luxury condo buildings, the two-bedroom to four-bedroom units are going to start at around $3 million. But again, the location here and the amenities that these places offer are nearly unbeatable. So if you are looking for one of these condos or trying to get into this neighborhood, feel free to reach out. Let me know what it is you're looking for. I'll keep my eyes open on or off the market and see what I can do to help you out. The next drawback of the West End neighborhood is the noise and congestion. And this is just an unfortunate side effect of being in one of the most energetic and vibrant areas of the city. First of all, you're right next to a medical center in the middle of a downtown area, which means sirens are going to be fairly commonplace. So keep that in mind if you are sensitive to that kind of noise. Also, home game nights for the Bruins and Celtics and concert nights are going to be extremely busy in the West End, and it may be harder to find seats at a restaurant or bar in the neighborhood. And if you have guests driving into town, traffic is not going to be fun, especially on those game nights. And guest parking is not going to be cheap either. You may hear some locals describe it as a f***ing shit show.
Nightmare.
Absolute clusterfuck. But either way, you're going to have to navigate around some busy sidewalks, a lot of vehicle traffic, high prices for ride-sharing services, and overly busy restaurants and bars. So if you're looking for a quiet night out on a game night, you may have to head to another part of the city. The next drawback of the West End neighborhood is the commuting challenges. And many people actually move to this area specifically to avoid commuting to and from this part of the city. But if you don't live around here and you drive into the city, you are going to be dealing with heavy traffic at rush hour, limited and very expensive parking, and if you take public transportation, it may be challenging during those game nights, although there are plenty of train stations in the area. Like other parts of the city, parking is free with a resident sticker, but it will be next to impossible to find a parking spot. Garage parking is going to run you $40 to $50 a day, $400 to $500 a month, and I have seen private parking spots available in the area for as little as $40,000 in some of the older residential buildings. But if you are looking to get into one of those brand new full-service condo complexes, plan on spending at least an extra $100,000 to $150,000 on top of the purchase price of your condo for a private parking spot. The next drawback of the West End neighborhood is the lack of that historic Boston charm. And this might not be a drawback for everyone. And while the Urban Renewal project did improve housing conditions, reduce traffic congestion, and foster economic development, many criticized some of the insensitive planning decisions that resulted in displacing residents and the destruction of historic neighborhoods. If you walk from the North End through the West End into Beacon Hill, Back Bay, and the South End, it's pretty easy to see which neighborhoods still have that historic Boston charm. And the West End does not really feel like one of those iconic, picturesque parts of the city. The last tenement is an incredibly small nod to the historic West End neighborhood before it was basically leveled and rebuilt from the ground up. So guys, that wraps up the pros and cons of living in the West End neighborhood. And if you have any more questions or are curious about living in this neighborhood or any other neighborhood in or around the city of Boston, please feel free to reach out. Shoot me a text or a call at that number below or fill out that form in the description. It costs you guys nothing to connect with me. So I'd love to hear from you. We love to help people out and be a resource for people who are moving around the city. But hopefully that gave you a great idea of what to expect moving into the West End neighborhood. And if this was even remotely helpful, please help me out by liking, commenting, subscribing. Let us know how we can make these videos a little bit more valuable for you. We're going to keep more of them coming. So please stay tuned, subscribe for more great Boston real estate content, and thank you guys so much for watching.